Hi, I'm Ali Patterson. On this episode of Fintech Finance, we're focusing on the contact centre and the impact it has on the overall customer experience. For this, we speak with Teleperformance to talk a little bit around the omni-channel contact centre. We also speak on the SME side with Iwoca and on the retail side with Barclays and Lloyds. So firstly, I went to speak with Richard Nicholls about how customer experience in the contact centre can be improved.
I think first of all it's trying to really get under the skin of what the customer journey needs to be, and customers are whimsical, they do behave in different ways, and journeys change because processes within organisations change, or attitude change, or a product change in whatever way. So I think the first stage of really trying to understand how and why you should change something is really understanding what's needed and how it will serve the customer. When you understand what it needs to be, I think the way that you improve it is put yourself in the customer's shoes. And the customer in the modern day is a demanding force, but I think you can underpin a lot of what they're trying to do with the simple fact that they want it to be easy. So if it's a telephone conversation or in an email or having a web chat conversation or being online or self-serving or whatever it might be, they just want their experience to be easy, no matter where it is or how it goes. Every organisation that we work with is diligent in trying to mitigate as much as they possibly can to stop things going wrong. But it's just a fact of life. Something's going to go wrong at some point along the way. So you have to accept it and just make sure that you've got a team of people around your organisation or partners around your organisation that can respond in the right ways when it does go wrong. And I think the best way to really respond in the first instance is to acknowledge that something's happened. And I see it in my professional life and also my private life as well, that those worst examples are when the organisation that's involved doesn't recognise that something hasn't quite happened as that you would normally expect it to, and therefore it just snowballs and more people get involved. So as long as you understand that it's going to go wrong, acknowledge it when it does go wrong, and try to put yourself in their shoes when it does happen, and then I think you're a long way to try and understand how you can tackle the problem. Some organisations now will start to look at an individual's influence score, and it's a metric that you can now include in the catalogue of what you look at. So when responding to a particular customer, you can understand what their sphere of influence actually is. It's not necessarily something that's been adopted by all, and sometimes organisations want to give a great experience no matter who you are. And I tend to like that approach more than picking and choosing who's got the most friends on Facebook or the more followers on Twitter. But it is a metric that's out there, and as long as you're delivering something that's consistent, then I think they'll be okay.
Contact centres can often feel quite automated and really lack that human touch. So I caught up with Barclays to speak with Simon about how to bring that human feel into the contact centre.
So we employ around about 3,500 people in our contact centres. You know, we're taking over 50 million interactions a year. And ultimately, we love the technology. The technology really enables us to have great conversation. And ultimately, that's what it's about, connecting one individual with a customer to have a great conversation. So for us, it is about providing that human contact 24/7. Now, some customers opt for self-service because that's easy and it's accessible for them. If you're on a train and you want to have access to your banking account, then you can use the Barclays mobile banking app, and we get 3.2 million customers using that on a daily basis. You know, similarly, if you want to talk to somebody at 2 a.m. in the morning, then you can call our contact centre and you can speak to one of our great individuals in one of our contact centre. And again, it comes down to customer choice. We're really proud of video banking. It's an innovation which Barclays launched at the end of 2014, and we've been growing that out to our customer base ever since then. One of the pieces that we love about video banking is it does allow that real human connectivity at the touch of a button. And actually, we were really proud. A couple of weeks ago, we had a Team GB athlete use Barclays video banking at I think about 2 a.m. local time when they were having some difficulties with their debit card and accessing funds, and they really wanted to talk to a human being. Clearly, that was really difficult to do when you're in a different country, but at the touch of a button, a Team GB athlete was able to connect to a Barclays human banking video banker and resolve all of their issues there and then. An amazing experience. And it's not just for those individuals. Actually, our most frequent users of our video banking is an 83-year-old lady who finds it difficult to get out of her home on a regular basis. And so she's entrusted her financial well-being to a member of her family. Now what she says to us is that she's got some independence back because she can deal with all of her financial well-being herself, talking to a live human being on her terms. And that's a great way of how technology is helping a range of different customers actually meet their everyday banking needs. And that doesn't mean to say that we are moving away from branches. Actually, we're celebrating what we have in our branch network, but it is about complementing and all these channels coming together so we can use the best of the technology to provide the best outcomes for customers. So yes, we're seeing it with mortgage activity. We're also seeing it where our relationship managers want to talk to perhaps somebody to do an annual account review, but we're also seeing it in those more complex moments where customers just want to talk to somebody on their terms. It could be that it's 7 o'clock at night on a Saturday, that they really want that human connection, that ability to talk to somebody in a completely different way that perhaps you would do through social media or through our contact centres, which are also available 24/7, but it's providing that virtual human connection. And I think that's important to make sure that we connect from a customer perspective on their terms. One of the things that Barclays has done over the last couple of years is invest in one platform. So whether you're in a branch, whether you're talking to a video banker, whether you're talking to one of our telephony contact agents, actually you have the same customer details there in front of you. And that's truly important to make sure that customers get the best service whichever way they choose to interact with Barclays. What was amazing to hear from our personal bankers in our contact centres only a couple of months ago actually, was we had a customer of ours who was stranded at a cash point. There were some problems with a debit card that she'd lost in a cash point machine, and she tweeted saying, Barclays help, what am I going to do now? It's 2 a.m. in the morning, she'd been on a night out, and she was on her own. Our social media team, who are multi-skilled, not only in social media, but in video banking and traditional telephony, picked that up within a matter of minutes, was able to make a contact to that individual, arrange for a taxi to come and collect her, to make sure she got home safely, and actually while they were doing that, ordered her a replacement debit card. So in that respect, we were able to take care of that individual and make sure that customer was safe and secure, and actually made sure that as soon as possible we were able to get a debit card back in her hands so that she could carry on with her everyday life. And for me, that's a great example of how technology can come together to really make sure we're providing great outcomes for the customer. And I'm really proud of the team that were able to respond that and go above and beyond.
Great. And we've touched briefly on branches, but you can now go to a branch and have a card printed off. Am I right in thinking that?
That's right. So in a number of our branches across the UK, we have instant issuance of debit cards, and that's proven to be incredibly popular, particularly at times of great emergencies for customers.
After hearing about the human touch in the contact centre, I went to speak with Christophe from Iwoca about the use of automation within their own loan applications for SMEs.
Without the automation, our business would simply not be possible. The way how you apply to our service online, and then the way how we process the information that you give to us, either the information that you upload to us or the information that you give us electronic access to, is processed fully automatically. So we really managed to reduce any manual input to an absolute minimum, which enables us to really turn around and come back with a decision within hours of your application. All of the information that is given to us is processed in real time, but sometimes it takes one of our customers also a bit longer to provide us with that information, and therefore it might be delayed. But all of the information that is coming to us, that is uploaded, is processed through the technology and software that we have developed. I mean, from the experience that you had, you can see the level of automation, and we do value the personal contact that we have with our customers, because we do think finance in itself is a very, very important topic, and therefore a personal relationship is helping to establish that trust and relationship. So that element we would not necessarily want to automate, because we think it's an important point of the process.
I don't think that there's anything that you shouldn't consider for outsourcing. And I think it comes back to how well do you do it yourself. And just because it operates within your building that has your badge on the front of it doesn't always mean that what you're doing for your customer is the best that's available to your customers. So there's nothing really that I would say actually you can't outsource that, it won't work. I think obviously within the contact centre industry, there are certain elements that are outsourced more often than not, and there are some elements of a business operation that you wouldn't want to outsource. But in terms of customer contact, in terms of being a custodian of a customer and treating them fairly and communicating with them on a number of different platforms and channels, I think it's all on the table really, and it just comes back to, if an outsourcer can provide a service to your customers that is in keeping with your brand, your culture, your ethos, or even potentially doing it better than you might do it in-house, then why not? The retail side has evolved tremendously, especially over the last 5 to 10 years, and the type of offerings that a customer can now expect in terms of a contact centre and the different preferences that sit around it are far advanced to what an SME might expect, or even a mid or large sized corporate organisation. And when you look at that side of the business, it's typically done on an account management, so it's a one-to-one relationship with somebody from the bank. And I don't think it's impossible to have that same type of relationship, have a one-to-one feel, but delivered remotely from a contact centre. As long as the contact centre is armed with the tools that it needs to give that experience to the customer, then why not? So if you have a personal account with a bank, you've become accustomed to a certain level of service. You've become accustomed to being able to bank wherever you are, be it mobile, be it on the high street or be it online. And you've become accustomed to be able to have a voice when something doesn't quite go right, maybe through social media or maybe doing it in a different way. If you're then at work and you're responsible for your banking relationship for the organisation you work from, I think there's that gap that exists, which is just completely it's impossible to ignore. For the SME market in particular, decision makers will start to demand an experience that's more akin to what they're used to in their personal life. And if you're a new startup and you're able to deliver that service, you underpin it with technology, you move in a slightly different way and you look and feel a lot closer to what someone's used to in their personal life, then yeah, sure, I'm sure you're going to have some success.
I also wanted to speak with Martin Dodd from Lloyds to find out a little bit more around some of the issues when it comes to using video chat and how Lloyds has been able to overcome these.
So we tested and learned, because one of the issues with this is it's new for us, but it's new for customers.
Yeah.
So actually we trialled it in both. We trialled it in branch and we trialled it at home. The big learn was actually customers want to do it from the comfort of their own home. They feel more confident, they feel more at ease, paperwork lying around, much easier to do joint interviews. So we got feedback very clearly from customers that the hours suited them better, evenings and weekends. Actually, I just feel more at ease in my own home, and actually just felt more comfortable and confident to them. So I think that was one real big learning we didn't necessarily expect when we went into this. So does it work in branches? Yes, it does work in branches. I think the feedback we've had from customers is it's okay. They like it as a service in branch, but they'd much prefer to speak to the normal person they normally deal with. So it's good as a kind of backup service, that if there's nobody there or they can't see anybody straight away, they don't mind the video service. It works well as a backup function, but actually of an evening or of a weekend, much more around their own time, their own space. And they really like this idea of being able to share paperwork. So one of the things we've just implemented, this was a kind of add-on once we'd gone live, was we call it document upload. So you're doing a mortgage, and let's say we want to see pay slips, we want to see bank accounts. Effectively, you take a picture of it on your phone, and we give you a link, and you load it straight up onto the system. So if you imagine we're having let's say an hour interview about a mortgage, even though you're at your own home, I've now got pictures of wage slips, documentation of the house.
Which is fine, you don't have to have a scanner or anything.
No,
Fantastic.
don't have to have a scanner, it's just a picture, and we can see the information, so it's like doing it face to face. So this is where we've used modern technology to really work for the customer and for us, just to make everything easier and simpler. What does a customer want? A customer wants the answer to their question, that they want it resolved, simple and easy, but there's still a big demand from customers to human interaction, that reassurance, that confidence.
It's a challenge that face many organisations, especially in the financial service world and especially for banks, as legacy systems often mean that customer interactions are logged in disparate places. The simplest way that we try to bring it all together is the technology providers that we work with and partner with. So we have a number of strategic partners that we will introduce to our clients into our market base, and they provide some really awesome tools in being able to show where the customers come from, which channels they've moved from, and where they might go back to. So you can see the whole picture, because there's nothing worse, as I'm sure you understand as a customer yourself, having to re-explain yourself. I had a conversation on Facebook, now you asked me to call in, I got cut off, I've now had to email. So if you can try and pull everything together, I think it just shortcuts ultimately what you're trying to do, which is trying to resolve whatever's gone wrong. Technology is a great way to try and do this, and if you've got a good banking app, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be using your thumbprint to get onto the app as a starting point. And I think it's a really nice and individual way to identify who you are before you start a conversation. Naturally, if that conversation evolves and moves into a more formal setting where you're speaking to an individual and going to access elements of your account, you're going to have to go through a Data Protection Act check. And I think that the best way that you can do it thereafter is to make sure that if that customer moves to a different department or needs to go and speak to somebody else, that department is aware that they've already been through that check and doesn't have to go through it time and time again.
Contact centres for us have evolved hugely, ultimately because customers are demanding more from us, and they're demanding that we have instant access 24/7. So that means that each of our personal bankers has to be much more knowledgeable than before, and because customers want all of their queries dealt with by one person. So we've invested quite significantly in making sure that we can upskill all of our personal bankers with even more knowledge to be able to put themselves in the customer's shoes using a range of different technology, so the customers get the answer the first time around and they don't have to contact us a number of different occasions. So I think right now what we're seeing is the move to self-service and automation. Something like 30 to 40% of our transactions are now done through self-service and general automation. So that means that our frontline personal bankers are dealing with more complex activities. So that means for us that we have to invest more into training and upskilling all of our teams from a knowledge perspective. The result of that means from a colleague perspective, it means that roles are much more rewarding in traditional contact centres, and for customers it means that they get their query dealt with at first point of contact. So it's a win-win for everybody all the way around. What we're trying to do is make sure that not one particular channel is primary. So for us, over the last couple of years, we have invested quite heavily in all of our channel capabilities, but the piece is to how do you bring them together and offering that seamless experience for customers. So whether it be the contact centre, our branch network, using channels such as social media or video banking or web chat, it's about how do we multi-skill all of our individuals so that they can have a conversation in the channel of customer's choice. And that transparency is super important, because what customers are looking for is if they start a particular conversation in one channel, they expect to finish it off perhaps in a different channel. But that has to be driven by them. And that's where our big investment has been over the last couple of years. So technology is a great enabler of that. We've recently rolled out our operating system for all of our customer management across our contact centres and the branch network. So now we have one platform. So whether you're a personal banker in our contact centres in the northeast of England, or whether you're in a branch in our southwest, you see one customer system with all of the same customer information. And that's been a huge enabler for us. But it also means that the knowledge and awareness of our personal bankers has to increase also. So colleagues being able to understand the preference of particular customers and being able to service them in their channel of choice. This is about making sure we can provide personalised service for all of our customers. And the technology is a great way of making that happen. If we take something like our voice security, for example, no more do customers need to remember a whole host of different passwords to get access to their everyday banking needs. And that means we can offer a seamless service for all of our customers.
On the next episode of Fintech Finance, we take a look at the role of branches and branch transformation when it comes to delivering customer loyalty and a solid experience.